Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5 VKSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, joined by Alex Napoles, live from Roland Hall on Guardsman Way right now, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. We are here for the all-day tailgate party, so if you're on your way up here or if you are up here already, come say hi. We've got a ton of candy, cornhole, donuts, coffee, all the goods.
Come play cornhole with Stone.
Yeah. Stone is really good. I'd imagine Stone's really good at cornhole.
Or Dallin. Dallin seems like he'd be really good at cornhole, too.
Dallin, we got to tell this story off air just barely in the break. Dallin came up and he was taking a video of this setup. Alex and I thought it was a picture,
yes.
So we were like sitting here smiling, frozen for a video. Like we didn't move at all.
It's that awkward one where it's like, oh, you think it's a picture, and then, oh, psych, it's a video.
We've had a few fans trickle by already, so please come stop by, say hi to us. We'd love to meet you. Love to hear some of your favorite memories of these rivalry games. But let's get back into it, Alex. I want to replay this interview. And, of course, Rivalry Week, we had so many interviews all throughout the week. You can go find them on the podcast page at KSL Sports. I mean, players that are responsible for some of the most iconic moments of this amazing rivalry game. I mean, we had Max Hall, John Beck, Johnny Harleen, Stevenson Sylvester, Christian Cox. Tons of former players from both sides joined the zone throughout the week, and a ton of content to go help you get ready for this game. But one interview in particular that I want to replay was Curtis Brown. He finished his career as the leading rusher in BYU history, over 3,000 rushing yards for the Cougs. But more importantly, for today, Alex, he was part of the BYU team that came up here to Salt Lake City and beat Utah in 2006. The Cougs won 33-31. That's the last time BYU has won here in Salt Lake City. So this is what Curtis Brown had to say when he joined Jake and Ben earlier this week, talking about playing at Rice-Eccles Stadium, talking about beating that Utah team. Here's Curtis Brown.
Ben, let's get out to the zone phone. Our next guest ran the ball for over 3,000 yards at BYU. He had over 1,000 yards receiving, and if I do my math correctly, had somewhere in the neighborhood of 37 touchdowns for the Cougs. No big deal. Joining us now, legend running back Curtis Brown. What's going on, Curtis?
Not much. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing terrific. Hey, I've got to imagine as a BYU alum, and I would imagine still a BYU fan, this is an exciting week, and this hasn't always been an easy week for BYU fans going into the rivalry week.
You know, it's definitely been exciting as a fan, as an alumni, to see the Cougs playing as well as they're playing. No, it's an exciting weekend, but it's a weekend that we should also be optimistic. We should be confident. We're doing everything right, and that's the thing is we're not taking any. The players are not taking any days for granted, any games for granted. They're playing 4 quarters of football. They're executing on all aspects of the game, and so I think that's the most important thing. I think in the past there have been times where either we're both doing well or we're both struggling, or there's kind of something going on. But I think this year we got to play with pride and confidence.
Curtis, I'm 1,000 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. Let me take you back to a take that I had in 2005 about BYU football. The difference between Gary Croton and Bronco Mendenhall is they gave Curtis Brown the ball more. That's right. Tell me about the difference between playing for those two coaches, because that was a really interesting time in the history of BYU football.
Well, I will tell you, yeah, it was definitely one of those things where I was, with the coaching change, when we knew we were getting Coach and I coming from Texas Tech, you always worry about, where do I stand on the team? And during that time, we had a number of running backs in the rotation, and so just trying to figure out where do I fit in. And I remember Coach Mendenhall invited me into his office to have kind of a one-on-one, and essentially, to sum up that conversation, it was this offense is going to score a lot of points and we're going to gain a lot of yards. and we're going to be successful. But there was no individual talking about me in regards to rushing or receiving the ball. And that's when it really hit me that if I just focus on the team and doing everything else I can within my power to be the best contributor to the team, then things will work out. And I think initially we wanted to go probably more pass game with our receivers, more single back, similar to what Texas Tech ran. But I think when you started to see the production out of our running backs, it became very clear to the coaching staff that there was a disadvantage when you put our running backs against opponents' linebackers. And so I'm just grateful for Coach and I and his faith in us as a group and, allowing us to demonstrate our talents.
Curtis, correct me if I'm wrong. You won one game against Utah in your career?
It's the only game that matters, right?
But it was at Rice Eccles, right? You went on the road and you did get a victory. What's it like playing on the road in this rivalry like BYU is facing this weekend, and what did it mean to win there?
If I'm being completely honest, it sucks to play there. I wish I could. It's a feisty, and I love it. I mean, I think that every college team needs that big rivalry game that just really just gets you that blood flowing. Just because from the moment you enter that stadium, there's nothing but hate for us. And so I think that kind of having that experience as a freshman, I really didn't even know what to expect my freshman year. I was just kind of like, hey, I'm on the team. It's cool. We were both doing poorly as programs. My sophomore year, my redshirt sophomore year, when they went to one of their first BCS bowls with Alex Smith. That left a very, very, very sour taste in my mouth. And I can tell you, I can still remember it. But I would say it's one of those when you do taste that victory, that success. Man, it's like nothing else. So winning on their field. Having that crowd go from being so loud to just mute, it was incredible.
Listen, you say you didn't like playing there, Curtis. Well, listen, we just had Casey Evans on in the last segment, former U, to play it around the same times. He didn't like playing there either. I remember that turf. It was like sandpaper laid on top of cement. I mean, the fact that you have an arm left after playing in that stadium, it was really brutal.
It was. I mean, unfortunately, I'll be honest. I mean, they with the exception maybe of my junior year, they were always good at stopping the run. And so it was almost like, maybe 30, 40 yards rushing, if I'm looking back and being honest, like for myself personally. So it was one of those things where, unfortunately, didn't pick up too much yardage on the ground and, caught a few passes and things like that, get pushed out of bounds or whatnot. But I think it was also cold wintertime. I'm not one who's opposed to wearing the sleeves and things like that. I'm not trying to be too much of a tough guy. If I need to stay warm, I'm throwing on some sleeves. So didn't have to deal with the turf burn too much.
So what individual moment stands out the most for you from your games playing, either the win or the losses?
It would definitely be on that final play, and it wasn't so much of the taste of victory. It was just a humbling experience because I know that week I'm not when it comes to that team and when it comes to BYU, I'm very confident. And that's the thing is I talked a lot of crap leading up to that week because we were doing so well. They weren't doing well. And it was a dogfight. And I remember thinking as we got the ball back with minute 17, kickoff, and we're going to go drive it down, I'm thinking to myself, man, this media is going to roast me for all the comments I made and this and that. And we got down to their red zone, and I'm just sitting there saying, man, if there's a miracle, it would be nice for it to happen right now. And to be honest, when that play happened, I heard the roaring from the crowd once the ball was thrown, and I honestly thought it was Utah fans celebrating the win. And it wasn't until I saw Brett Cooper, one of my receivers, run across the middle of the field and chuck his helmet 50 yards up in the air that I realized that we actually won. And at that point, it was one of those things where it's just like, wow, this is what it's all about. This is what it's this is what it's for. And it was just a great feeling. And, yeah, it wasn't a dominating victory like I had kind of hoped for, but it was a victory. And at the end of the day, it was the sweetest feeling in the world.
So, Curtis, as you can imagine, we spend probably way too much time talking about quarterbacks when we're talking about college football. But now, of course, they are an important position, and quarterback development is a big topic. Utah trying to develop some young quarterbacks. Jake Retzloff obviously has improved greatly from last year. And you were on the same team as John Beck for his whole journey. And I think it's an underrated story. He played early, didn't particularly have success. You mentioned that great 04 Utah team that they went up against. That season was a struggle. And by the time he left in 06, he was been a second-round pick, I think?
Yeah, second round to Miami.
Yeah, so tell us about his development. What made him special?
I think the thing that makes John special now, back then, was just his willingness to just take feedback, take criticism, and have a desire to get better. I think sometimes as quarterbacks, it's tough because you kind of feel like you have to always just be confident, like you know what you're doing, you have to have an answer for everything. But the one thing that John was great about was he was great about opening the lines of communication. He was great about when I would get frustrated. I remember prior to our senior year, we were doing some, routes and things like that, and I went off because I'd been out there for 20 minutes, and all we had thrown the ball was to wide receivers, and a running back was sitting there swinging the ball, and I'm like, man, did you guys forget about us? And I went off, and Reno Mahe was out there, and he actually had to pull me away and be like, dude, calm down. That's your quarterback. You don't ever talk to your quarterback that way. I mean, not that I was being crazy. I was frustrated. But the thing is John came up to me, and he explained what was going on, and he said, hey, man, trust me, I have faith in you. And so it was that moment where I was like, you know what? This guy truly loves each and every one of us. He loves this team. He loves this program. And he was always just open with us about what he was struggling with offensively, what he needed us to do better. And so that's the thing. I think any great quarterback is they have that relationship where there's that line of communication that's always open. And regardless of how heated things may get during practices or in the off season, there's a mutual respect and love for one another.
When did you know that what the Utah-BYU rivalry was really all about? Did you have to play in the game first? Did you know the moment you kind of get to town and you see colors and all that sort of thing? When did it hit you that this is such a special game?
Oh, my redshirt sophomore year. My freshman year, like I said, freshman year I think we went 5-7. We were trash. And the second year I redshirted, it ended in a 3-0 tie or a 3-0 win for Utah at our house. It was cold. And I was sitting in the stands. Yeah. And I'm like, this was the most boring game ever. But my redshirt sophomore year, because it was a dogfight up until halftime. And there was all this talk about if they beat us, they're going to a BCS bowl and this and that and whatever. I think we had a turnover right before half that can't remember whether we got the turnover or we gave the turnover. One of those things happened, but I just remember getting super hyped during halftime, just pissed off, just yelling like, dude, we got this. And then they came and smacked us around in the second half, and it was very humbling. But leading up to that game, there was a lot of trash talk. There was information and stuff talked about family and things like that I'm like, wow, is that how we're going to play it? And then the moment stepped on, it was people in the stands saying things and talking about things that you wouldn't think they knew about, or family and this and that, trying to get under your skin. And yeah, it got under our skin, but I think that's what kind of set the tone. And I think that's why when my senior year, I was like, you know what, I'm going out with a bang. So I already know what to expect. I already know the trash talk that's going to be talked about, what they're going to say, and you just couldn't let it faze me.
Well, Curtis, I was talking to Ben earlier and said that you would be from all the players that I covered, you would be on the all-interview team because you were really good even as a young man. And you know what? You're still really good at it, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us your perspective.
Oh, no, for sure. I appreciate you guys having me. I mean, I imagine it's only 10% of your listeners probably even know who I am by this time. It just feels so old, but I appreciate it.
Heck no, you're a legend, Curtis. Absolute legend around here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go. Curtis Brown, former BYU running back, over 3,000 total rushing yards in his career. He was part of the last BYU team to come up to Rice-Eccles Stadium and beat Utah here in Salt Lake. In that game, 12 carries for 45 yards, as well as 4 catches for 31 yards. So not a stellar stat line, but the Cougs got the win, Alex, and that's all that matters. BYU won 33-31 on that day, all the way back in 2006.
It was a long time ago.
What a good interview. I mean, the highlight, obviously, Ben asked him what it's like to come and play at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and he said, I'm going to be honest with you, it sucks. They hate us. And I think that's true.
Again, just to add to the fire of the rivalry, right? You got the fan bases chirping at you all game long, and then in this case, in that 2006 case, imagine just how amazing that a win like that would feel. And I'm sure that's what BYU and Retzlaff and company are looking forward to do tonight.
Yeah, he said it sucks to play up here at Rice-Eccles Stadium, but getting the win here on the road for BYU would feel so good for them. So huge thanks to Curtis Brown and all the other guests we had on to talk Rivalry Week throughout the week. Again, if you missed any of them, go check out the KSL Sports podcast page. We had them on all of our daily shows, tons of former BYU and Utah players, some of the players responsible for some of the biggest moments in this rivalry's history. We had Johnny Harleen, John Beck, Max Hall, Zane Beatles, Curtis Brown, Stevenson Sylvester, Christian Cox, Coach Sataki even joined DJ and PK earlier in the week. So go check out all of our content and get yourself ready for this game. Big game tonight here at Rice-Eccles Stadium. What do you think? Take a break?
Yeah, let's hit a break.
Let's hit a break. We are here at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium, here at the all-day tailgate party leading up to kickoff. We're going to be leading up to the combined Ute and Cougar pregame show. That's going to be at 6, and we're here all day until then. Tons of candy out right now, coffee, BYU and Utah-themed donuts coming up later today. El Matador is going to be here. They're going to have 100 Hans and Scotty burritos to hand out. That's going to be, what do you say, Dallin, around 5? 5:30-ish, 5:30. Come get yourself a Hans and Scotty burrito. It's a limited edition special dish that they cooked up for those guys, and 100 of them. That's actually super generous for them to make that many, because I know those burritos are monstrous.
Absolutely.
I've seen a few pictures of them on Twitter, and they're a sight to see. So
come try them.
Come see us. We're going to be here all day. Again, we're at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. Going to hit a break on the other side. We'll talk a little 5 minutes of. Got to talk about everything else going on that's relevant. Utah Hockey Club, Utah Jazz. We'll talk a little more rivalry. That's coming up next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. There we go, Sean. I like that song. Saturday. It is the Saturday Show, of course.
Have you been playing Saturday-themed music, Sean?
Yeah. Kind of hacky, but, you know.
I like it. It sucks that it took us this long to realize.
We're almost at the end of the show, and we just barely realized.
Oh, man. Great job, Sean. Great job. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. We are here live from the all-day tailgate party at Roland Hall, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. Just getting ready for the big game tonight. Utah is set to host BYU later today. What is the official kickoff time? I know it's never right. It says 8:15. It's probably going to be closer to 8:30, I'm guessing. What do you think?
Hopefully 8:20.
Yeah.
For the sake of the people.
That's one thing I've noticed about sports lately. I mean, the tip-off and kickoff times are never correct. They always get slid back a little bit, and it's kind of frustrating.
It's those TV times, man.
Those TV slots.
Oh, yeah.
But regardless, the game is tonight at some time around 8:15-ish.
We'll say, and this has been a big point of emphasis coming from the Utah players and the Utah Athletics, be early. Be in your seats. If you got tickets, doesn't matter if you're on the Utah side, doesn't matter if you're on the BYU side, get here early, be in your seats ahead of kickoff, and cheer on your side.
And dress warm. We don't want anybody
Absolutely
getting sick or getting hypothermia or whatever. It's nice right now because the sun is out, but
yes.
the sun will be long gone.
There will be
by
no
the time
sun.
this game kicks off. It will be cold tonight. So in case you weren't planning on it, please dress warm if you come to this game. We don't want to have any accidents, I guess. Right?
Yes. Everybody be safe.
All right, Alex, let's get into 5 minutes of. Obviously, we've got the rivalry game, the biggest topic by far for today's show. We've got a couple things going on today at the station. Utah Jazz are coming up. They're playing the Spurs. They have an early afternoon tip, 3 p.m. tip-off, 2 p.m. pregame here on the Zone. The Jazz are struggling, 1-7, worst record in the NBA. They're coming off a loss, 123-100 to the Bucks. They are staying on the road again at the Spurs today before they return home and play the Suns on Tuesday.
I think that game against the Bucks was kind of unfortunate for the Jazz. You come out and you have a good shooting half in the first half.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of let the game get away from you in the third quarter. And that's a lot of credit too to the Bucks. Giannis and Dame on the court together were phenomenal. But at the same time, the Jazz kind of lost their shooting touch in that third quarter, let the game get away from them, and like you mentioned, they're now sitting at 1-7. The worst league, I believe, tied with the 76ers for the worst record in the NBA.
Something like that, yeah. And the 76ers, by the way, they owe their first-round pick to the Thunder. It is top 6 protected. Or no, excuse me. It's the Clippers that owe the Thunder a pick. Somebody, I forgot who owns the 76ers pick. But it is a top 6 protected pick. Tyrese Maxey, one of their better players, is projected to be out with an injury for an extended period of time. So it's going to be interesting to see if the 76ers go with a quote-unquote youth movement and try to hold on to that pick since it's top 6 protected, or if they're going to want to try and win down the stretch and end up conveying it, because they do, at the end of the day, have Joel Embiid and Paul George. So they're going to want to try and win games, I think. But that is kind of an interesting storyline, having a top 6 protected pick in such a loaded draft class.
Absolutely. There's plenty of talent. And like we mentioned earlier, the college hoops season has just started, and so we'll see who continues to rise and emerge. There's a lot of fun talent to keep an eye on this year.
Yegor Demine, BYU standout. He's played a couple of games for the Cougars so far. 5-star freshman from, is it Russia?
Yes.
Yeah, he's looked phenomenal
good.
over
He's
the first
looked
2
really
games.
good.
And it's not just, local fans that are talking about it on social media, but we're starting to see, some of these guys that get into the NBA scouting stuff talking about how good this dude looks. And it's only been 2 games, and it hasn't been against the highest level of competition, but people are talking about him as a top 10 pick and potentially moving into the top 8 or 6 or 5. Maybe there's a chance he ends up with the Utah Jazz.
Could be possible, absolutely, especially if he continues the trajectory that he's on right now, because he's off to a very hot start for BYU.
So that will be an interesting thing to watch, I guess, for the Cougs, and seeing how well they perform. Of course, they're a big storyline. We've got a fan, a passionate fan.
Did we just get heckled?
I wouldn't think so. I think he's cheering us on.
Oh, okay, there we go.
I don't know. A passionate Ute fan with some flags hanging out of his truck, driving by and yelling at us. Come say hi. We're at Roland Hall. But again, yeah, BYU, big storyline in college basketball with all their NIL funding. They've got Cannon Catchings, Yegor Demine, some really big names playing for them this season. So we'll see how BYU continues to do. Also coming up today, we're going to have USU basketball and football. Basketball plays at 2 p.m. versus Charlotte. They're at home at the Spectrum. Football is playing tonight, 8:30 kickoff at Washington State. Basketball was fun the other night. I produced their first game of the season. They got the big win at home. Hopefully the basketball team will continue to roll. The football team, Not so fun.
Good chance here for them to kind of turn things around, though.
Maybe. Washington State is really good.
They are very good. Then they're a top 25 team at the moment. And so it's going to be, I do believe it'll be a difficult matchup, but if Utah State can carry a little bit of that momentum they had against Wyoming, carry it into this one, and potentially walk away with a big upset win over the number 21, sets you up nicely for what's to come towards the end of the season, right? I think for Utah State, you just have to focus, similarly to Utah, you just kind of have to focus on ending the season on a positive note. Got to take something away from the season.
Couple of guys can dream, right?
Yeah.
Also today on the station, we've got Utah Hockey Club at the Nashville Predators. That's a 6 p.m. puck drop, 5 p.m. pregame. Hockey Club coming off a big 4-2 win at the St. Louis Blues. Dylan Gunther scored the go-ahead goal. And then at the end of the game, I'm spacing who it was, but there was an empty netter goal. And those are fun goals for me to see because it was kind of like a full court shot in basketball, right? It was McBain, by the way. And it was probably 3/4 of the ice, I guess, and he kind of just popped it up into the empty net. And to me, seeing the empty net goals, it's kind of like the victory formation in football. Like, you see it happen and you know the game is over. And so it's cool on the stat sheet to see the 4-2 victory. But it was really more so 3-2 until that empty netter goal. But regardless, the Utah Hockey Club getting back into the win column. After a loss at the Vegas Golden Knights, it was an overtime loss. But it's still a great game regardless. And then, again, today they are at Nashville.
I will say it has been really fun becoming fans of this hockey club. It has been... I barely knew anything about this sport prior to the team being announced coming over to Utah, so it's been fun learning. It's been fun getting used to what hockey is, and I hope with that, again, we're hoping for a playoff spot for this Utah Hockey Club team, but we'll just continue to learn and continue to fall in love with hockey.
You're right. It has been really fun learning this new sport because it is new to everybody. But
absolutely.
It's been a blast getting to know this team and getting to know the sport. So, resetting the scene here, though, today, Alex, Utah, BYU, big game. This game has not been played in 3 years. 2021 was the last time these two teams met. It was BYU that came away with the victory that was 26-17. Kind of an upset win, and Utah had won the previous 9 games before that. So, really just on top of it being, a rivalry game, a regional rivalry, it's a big deal because this game has not been played in so long because of the in-season storylines with BYU looking phenomenal on the season and then Utah struggling. They've lost 4 games in a row. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be tonight. We're going to see if it's Brandon Rose or Isaac Wilson. But even with all that, as you mentioned throughout the show, as we've been saying throughout the week, you put all that to the side with these rivalry games. You never know what could happen. So we'll see how it goes.
Toss it out. I mean, if you think back to that 21 game, I think there was, from what I can remember, there was a lot of confidence that Utah were going to get win number 10.
Yeah.
They were going to...
They wanted to get 10 wins in a row. That's kind of a milestone, right, in the rivalry.
Absolutely. And... so for BYU to come out and get the win, end the streak, and kind of put a damper on Utah wanting to get to number 10, it was huge. And it was huge for BYU to get that win. And the Utah Utes, who ended up having to turn around their season with Cam Rising coming in the next game against San Diego. San Diego. And so I think that game was a little bit of a turning point for Utah. Obviously, you take the loss, and then the next game you kind of are losing on the road again, and then you kind of have to turn to Cam Rising, and then we know what happened from there. For BYU, now they're kind of in a situation where they are the favorites for the Big 12. They are in prime position at this point to be Big 12 champions. And for obviously the season for Utah hasn't gone the way that they wanted to. And so what would it mean for this Utah team to be spoiler to BYU's perfect season?
It would be huge. It really, really would, because that's really all the Utes can do at this point. Besides that and making a bowl game, those are really the only 2 big accomplishments that Utah can do given their record and given how their season has gone up to this point, they want to be the bad guy today. They want to come in and ruin what has been an undefeated season so far for BYU. And I'm sure that is kind of an inspiration point that the coaching staff and the leaders on this team have brought up. Like, hey, let's go in and ruin these guys this season. Because everybody's talking about this is one of the best BYU seasons in a long time. In a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And
probably, I think their best start maybe ever.
One of their best starts ever, for sure. So how sweet would it be to just ruin that? Even if BYU goes on to win the Big 12 championship and play in the college football playoff, maybe that still happens. But just to have that in the back of their mind and Utah being able to say, like, hey, we still beat you that year, right?
Exactly. If BYU goes on to win the Big 12 and represent the Big 12 in the college football playoff, Utah fans will never let them live that
down. And so really that's kind of all they can hope for at this point.
And I feel like Utah does a really good job of playing in this underdog role, playing in kind of with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something also that's been lacking this season for Utah.
And that's something that, right, they were picked to win the Big 12 in the preseason, so you can't really play with the chip on your shoulder at that point. Now coming in, I mean, I know they're the home team, but they're the home underdog.
They are.
And they're the ones on the 4-game losing streak. They're the ones with uncertainty everywhere. So you're right that they are back to having that underdog mentality that Kyle Whittingham loves to play with, and he loves to instill in this team. And we've seen them do so many great things with that mentality. Talking about playing spoiler, I knew we had some sound to play. Correne Reed, defensive end for the Utes, part of this great Utah defense, he talked about playing spoiler for BYU and what that would mean.
It's really exciting. I think obviously I would prefer to have that record, but to be on that side where you can ruin their season and kind of have that nothing to lose edge, hungry mentality it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. Like I said earlier in the show, everybody knows the wounded dog is an animal you don't want to mess with, and that's Utah right now. So the hope is that they come out, bearing their fangs, I guess.
You got to love that mentality though from Reed, and I'm sure the defense all feels the same. I'm sure this whole team probably feels the same. You got to love that mentality heading into this game. Again, you at this point you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You have absolutely nothing to lose. Go for it. Go out there. Ball out. Be spoiler.
Be spoiler. And protect your house, right? Because this is Rice-Eccles Stadium. This is your home field. You don't want BYU to stack back-to-back wins against you. So you have a lot of reasons to win this game. But ultimately, just celebrate bringing the rivalry back. Celebrate playing this game for the first time, being members of the same conference, the Big 12. Celebrate this being the premier rivalry of the Big 12 conference. So everybody should be looking forward to this game, regardless of if it's an 8:30 kickoff or not. And that does suck that we can't get a ton of national eyes because of the kickoff time, but that's what you get when the Utes have struggled the way they have, and BYU's never going to get the national respect that they deserve. But regardless, I mean, we know that records don't matter. What's happened up to this point in the season does not matter.
Toss it out the window.
Odds are this is going to be a great game, as it traditionally is.
Absolutely. That's what you can hope. That's all you can hope for. From a neutral perspective, that's all you can hope for. These two sides just go out, battle it, as they always have, and continue to build this rivalry.
Let's take a break, one more break, Alex, and then we will wrap this show up on the other side. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, wrapping things up as we get ready for this big game. Alex, tonight, 8:15, Utah is hosting BYU. We are here live from Roland Hall on Guardsman Way. We had so many people stop by, get candy, get coffee, get donuts, so still got tons of stuff, though. Come meet us. Come say hi. Come celebrate.
Still got a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll be here all day giving away prizes, giving away candy, giving away foods.
Tons of games, too.
Yeah,
cornhole.
Come play games. Come join the fun.
It is an all-day tailgate party. And, yeah, we're going to be here, again, leading up to we're going to have the combined Ute and Cougar pregame show with Lloyd Cole, Christian Cox, Alex Keary, and Jake Hatch. That's going to be extended, too. Normally it's 1 hour. It's going to be a 2-hour pregame show. They're going live at 6. And at 5:30, we're going to have El Matador here giving out 100 of their Hanson Scotty burritos. So we got festivities all day. It's a big game. Can't wait to see how this game goes. Has not been played in 3 years. We got to do this, Alex. We got to talk about score predictions for this game. I can go first if you need some time to think.
Yeah, go for it. I'll let you take this for the first swing on this.
Well, obviously, the key is, right, Utah needs to put up points, which they have not done this season. And it's not like we're going to need Utah it's not like we're going to need to see them put up 30 to win because their defense is so good. I do think Utah will need to score at least 24 points if they want to win.
Okay.
I don't think they have any chance at winning if they score less than 24 points, and I don't think that they will score 24 points. With the uncertainty at quarterback, we don't know if it's going to be Isaac Wilson or Brandon Rose, who would be making his first start. I think that Utah is going to score, I'm going to say 16 points. I think they're going to hold the Cougs to 24. So I'm predicting a 24-16 BYU victory here at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Okay, I like that. I think for me, the lucky number, the sweet number, first one to 20 wins this game. Obviously, because Utah haven't been able to score too much this year, BYU scores a lot, and they score in bunches.
Yeah.
First one to 20 for me wins this game. I think I'm leaning blue. I'm leaning BYU in this one. I'm going to go with We'll go 28-17.
Okay. Real similar there. It is worth noting BYU has not been held under 20 points since their Week 2 game at SMU, where they won 18-15. So this is an offense that can score. We're going to see if Utah's defense can slow them down. Having a bye week beforehand to help both teams prep, I think, is a big thing. I think I kind of like that. I know some people didn't, but it gives you extra time to build up for this rivalry, for the fans to build excitement, and for the teams to just prep.
Well, and at the end of the day, you have Kyle Whittingham who's coming out and mentioning that he has a plan, that they have a roadmap to what they want to do, and so we'll see what exactly that plan is tonight when we come out and they take the first snap.
You think we'll see both quarterbacks, or do you think we'll just see whoever they decide to roll with?
I think that would probably depend on the way the game goes. I believe if the plan is working the way that Kyle Whittingham and the coaching staff want it to work, we'll probably just see the one.
Okay.
But obviously if they need some kind of spark, if things aren't going their way, it wouldn't surprise me to have a little switcheroo like they did against Houston.
That would be disastrous. I think that would be worst-case scenario for the Utes. We mentioned it earlier in the show. I think it sounds like we both think Brandon Rose is going to be starting for the Utes tonight. We don't have any info, obviously, but that's kind of just, if you're going to have a quarterback battle, it's probably to make a change, right? So,
#Water the Rose.
That is what Alex is rolling with. I don't know if I want to say that. It sounds a little silly, but we will see, again, Utah versus BYU coming up tonight, 8:15. Join us all day here on The Zone. This has been the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.